Thank you all for being here. Good to see you all. Thanks for staying. I know a lot of you have been waiting in the heat, especially our guests here that are going to be speaking. Senator Cassidy will be joining us in a moment. Chair Wyden is here. I don't know why he wears that. I think it's for Ohio State. That's really nice of him.
Into these rivalries now.
Anyway, and I especially want to welcome Margaret and Emily Demko from Southern Ohio, from Athens County. We have an Albany and a New Albany. They're from New Albany. You've read about with the CHIPS bill is going to be New Albany. They're from the first Albany down by Athens County. Jennifer Jones with AARP. You can see the coalition that Senator Cassidy and Senator Wyden and I have put together. That's why this is a serious bill with a serious, a really good future. We're going to get this passed. Jennifer Jones with AARP, Brian Gills with J.P. Morgan Chase, Galen Carries with the National Association of Evangelicals, whom I've worked with on some other issues, Bill Hoagland with the Bipartisan Policy Center, Rylan Rogers with Microsoft. So you can see the breadth of this coalition. First time we've had a bill like this on this issue with support from Republicans and Democrats in the House, Republicans and Democrats in the Senate. And I'm so grateful for Senator Cassidy, how he has worked on this bill together. So it's the largest, broadest coalition in 40 years to reform these outdated rules that prevent 8 million Americans who are elderly or blind or disabled from building a better life for themselves. They want to, they need a little more help to do that. The Supplemental Security Income Program is a lifeline for them. Right now, arbitrary and outdated restrictions prevent these Americans from saving money for emergencies, and they punish people who want to do the right thing and save money. If these Americans have even $1 more than $2,000 in their savings accounts, $1 more than $2,000 in their savings accounts, or $3,000 if they're married, all their SSI benefits are taken away, as if someone could live off that $2,000 in savings. This hasn't been updated. The reason I said 40 years earlier, this hasn't been updated in 40 years. We've tried. Today we have this bipartisan coalition with this incredible group across the board, reaching much of American society in support. The government shouldn't punish people for wanting to do the right thing and save money by taking away the benefits they rely on to live. We're coming together to introduce this bipartisan plan, raising that number from $2,000 to $10,000 in savings. So if they have $3 or $4 or $5 or $6 or $7 or $8 or $9,000, they don't lose their monthly check. And $20,000 for couples. No one gets rich off these benefits. The average monthly benefit is $585 for individuals. The most people can get is $794, less than the minimum wage. The government shouldn't be tracking elderly or disabled Americans in poverty by punishing them if they do the right thing, if they try to set aside a little bit of money for savings. It should be common sense. It's why we have this huge coalition, again, across the ideological spectrum, why they're on board. We have a bipartisan bill in both houses, and for the first time in 40 years. We have churches, we have families, we have disability advocates, we have companies, we have Republicans, we have Democrats, all on board. It's why we have the best chance to do this. Senator Cassidy, next.
Well said,
I'll point out that when somebody's college football team does well, they start wearing the merch. And so, so anyway, he deserves it. Thank y'all for being here. We're doing something really good for fellow Americans who happen to be disabled, but who were caught in a law passed 40 years ago. And it wasn't that 40 years ago they did something wrong. Well, no, they did. They tried to address the fundamentals of this program, but they didn't put in an index for inflation. And so now there are sums written 40 years ago which capture somebody now who, although disabled, wishes to have the dignity of work, wishes to save up should there be an emergency. But if they do, they lose their safety net. If you will, it transforms that safety net from a trampoline springing them to a better life to flypaper which sticks them down, where they cannot, once more, benefit from the dignity of work and save for that emergency for themselves and for their family, instead trapped in a law 40 years ago which was not indexed for inflation. There's a guy back home in New Orleans, Andrew Schlesinger, and he won't mind me using his name because he's actually been on TV talking about this, has spina bifida. And if you meet Andrew, he's a wonderful guy, but you'll see that he's disabled. He benefits from this program, but he's punished by these rules. and a man who responsibly wishes to work more. And by the way, if he works more, he pays more taxes, he contributes more to society, he otherwise benefits himself and others. Instead, he is disincentivized from this. This is bipartisan, and my Democratic colleagues would agree, but as a Republican, I like to say particularly, it has a great work incentive. We know with this shortage of work power that we have in our nation right now, that everyone who can work should be working, and that benefits us all in yet another way. We need to get it done for someone like Andrew and for all the other Andrews out there. So our Savings Penalty Elimination Act, raising the cap, allows people to remain with that safety net, but the safety net acting like a trampoline, bouncing them up to a better life instead of a flypaper sticking them always down. It's an easy fix, encourages work, allows savings, and gets people out of poverty. What's not to like? Thank you all.
I'm sure we like it.
So, this terrific Brown-Cassidy bill is going to go to the Senate Finance Committee. I know the chairman of that committee, and
I think his college football team did well last week. So
let me tell you, Senator Brown and Senator Cassidy have said it so well, and I'm just going to add a couple of very quick points. Here's what's going on here. Americans receiving supplemental security income are being victimized by a bunch of government rules from yesteryear. The fact is, these rules have not kept up with the times. And as Senator Brown and Senator Cassidy have said, we don't think somebody in government got up in the morning and said, gee, let's just be rotten all day today to people receiving SSI. People just didn't realize the amount of pain and the amount of loss that folks receiving SSI are enduring when all they want to do, as Senator Cassidy and Senator Brown have said, is work hard and play by the rules. This effort that is bipartisan. I just had A.J. Jacobs in my office, guys, writing a book about the Constitution, one of the best-selling authors. That's all he wanted to talk about was bipartisanship. So you're seeing the face today in the Senate Finance Committee with two of our leaders doing exactly what's on this country's mind. Is focusing on real issues, not made up kind of fear-mongering kind of concerns, but real issues they're going to pay off in terms of giving people a chance to work hard, get ahead, strengthen our business. I'm not going to be able to stay, but I just want you to know, as chairman of the committee, we are going to do everything we can to pass this bill. We're going to look at every possible vehicle that moves through the Senate, moves through Washington, D.C. These two are on the right side of history. God bless all you wonderful advocates, and we're going to be in your corner. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Ron and Bill. My favorite part of this program for me is I have two Ohioans here, Margaret and her daughter Emily. Emily, I love the name Emily. My mother's named Emily. My oldest daughter is named Emily. And I met Emily about my second or third year in the Senate. She and her mother came to Washington to argue for a program that we had started some years before, the Children's Health Insurance Program. And she was 3 years old with her mom. Her mom has been a terrific advocate ever since. Emily's now 18. She's an artist. She's a hostess at Applebee's. She works at a local diner. Her mother has dedicated her life to speaking out on issues like this and has made such a difference. And that's why I'm involved, because I met her mother and met Emily. And take it away, the two of you. Thank you.
Oh my God. No, no.
It's all right. Okay, ready? Okay, ready?
My name is Emily Demko. I am 18 years old from Athens County, Ohio. I have been working since I was 16. I now have 3 jobs, one at local hot dog place called Larry's Doghouse, one at Applebee's as a host, and one as an artist for a place called Works. It's an art studio where people with and without disabilities work together to make art. I can only work a total of 28 hours a week between all of my jobs. I want to be able to save money in my own bank account. It did it. I want to be able to do all the same things that every adult does, even though I have doubts one. Sometimes I am asked to do an extra shift at Applebee's with my friends. I can't do that and be a team player because I would make too much money in a month and lose Social Security. I also want to be able to sell my original artwork in Athens and all over. I want to be able to be paid for my talent and my work. Right now, if I sell one of my paintings at Works, I will not be able to work the rest of the month. I want to live a full life, make money, save money, and independent without losing Social Security.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon. My name is Margaret Demko. I'm Emily's mom. We live in Athens County. I'm here today to support my daughter as she enters this new world of adulthood. She has been working, as she said, since she was 16. When she turned 18, she became eligible for SSI. It's been a struggle to keep her bank account under this current outdated asset limit. She wants to be able to support herself as much as she can, but she will always need that critical lifeline of Social Security to help her survive. She's an only child, and as her family, we would rather she be able to save her money and save her earnings, not necessarily her SSI, in a bank account that she can access without the red tape of a trust or an account of any other kind or asking anyone's assistance. It's important for us as a family that she learn and continue on with the values of saving and being fiscally responsible. Emily works under 25 hours a week at her 3 jobs, even though she has the desire to work more, because the odds are that she would have more than the outdated $2,000 limit in her bank account if she worked more than 25 hours a week. This could cause a nightmare of paperwork for us as a family, as to make sure that she spends her money down, possibly frivolously, on things she doesn't need, instead of saving. She may also be deemed ineligible, and we would have to start the entire process over. Or worse, we may have to pay back monies that she may not have and that we may not have as a family. Increasing the asset limit to an appropriate, up-to-date amount would undo so many of these burdens. Everyone wants to have a sense of belonging, and that sense for Emily has come from working as an artist at PassionWorks and as a host at 2 local establishments. If she wants to sell her unique art, as she said, the sale of only 2 pieces would send her over that asset limit. She still needs the lifeline of SSI to live her best and fullest life. Saving for emergencies is also important, as the Senator mentioned. She may not understand these things now, but without a savings account, what if something major happens to her home after her father and I are gone? A roof, a hot water heater, a new sink? She wouldn't be able to cover those things, nor would her payee. The time is right in 2023 to raise this asset limit. The increase would mean opportunities for personal growth with a more diverse job field, more opportunity to work and be productive and a connected member of her community, and the ability to live a much more independent, richer life, something that her father and I have always wanted since day one. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and I hope to get this passed.
Thank you. And I think that Emily really illustrates, as Senator Cassidy said, the dignity of work and what you're doing with your life. So thank you. Jennifer Jones is next, and then each of you will just introduce the next person. Thank you. From AARP.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone. It's hard to imagine, following the words of Margaret and Emily, to understand how we can't get this done. I want to start by thanking Senators Brown, Senator Cassidy, Senator Wyden for their leadership on this important piece of legislation. And on behalf of AARP and the 100 million 50 plus that we represent and fight for every single day, we are pleased to endorse, once again, the SSI Savings Penalty Elimination Act. As Senator Brown said, this program serves roughly 8 million people. About 2.5 million of those are older adults, 65 plus. These asset limits of $2,000 for individuals and $3,000 for couples, draconian. They barely cover 1 month of expenses for the average household. And because they haven't been updated for 40 years, think about just how much has changed in the world in the last 40 years, right? They prevented millions of older Americans and those with disabilities from building a tiny nest egg for fear of losing vital benefits. I think we can agree all Americans should have the ability to sock away a few dollars for an unexpected financial emergency, and SSI beneficiaries are no exception. SSI's outdated asset limits have also prevented those in legitimate financial need, particularly older Americans, from being able to qualify for the program. The older you get, the more likely it is that you've accumulated a modest amount of assets, which makes qualifying for SSI difficult. Which means there are millions of low-income older Americans who might otherwise qualify who are out of luck, can't access the program. So AARP is proud to support a long overdue increase to the SSI asset limit and urges Congress to act in support of millions of SSI beneficiaries forced to choose between maintaining their benefit and saving just enough to help weather an unexpected financial situation. I want to thank Senator Brown, Senator Cassidy, Senator Wyden for their leadership in working to improve the financial conditions of millions of older adults and those with disabilities who are most in need. Now, please welcome Brian Gill from JPMorgan Chase.
So I'm Brian Gill. I'm privileged to be the head of the Office of Disability Inclusion and the head of neurodiversity for JPMorgan. I also want to extend my thanks to Senator Brown and Cassidy for your leadership on this very important issue. Our firm, like many companies, wants to attract and retain the very best qualified people of all abilities. And that includes making our workplace the best it can be for our colleagues with disabilities, which in turn helps us serve our diverse clients and customers. The current Supplemental Security Income Program's asset and income limits are so low that do create barriers for people with disabilities to join the workforce, to work to their fullest potential, to save for the future. And the SSI asset limits fall far short as well of providing meaningful financial security for these families. This means that far too many people with disabilities face a dilemma between keeping their wages and assets extremely low or risking the loss of benefits that provide steady income, health insurance, and that much needed safety net. Our employees with disability worry that receiving a bonus or a raise could put them over the cap on earnings. And what often happens, our colleagues cut their hours back to make sure they stay below those thresholds. And they often cannot participate in our 401k program, where JPMorgan provides matching contributions to help with wealth accumulation. The legislation introduced today would greatly help, and we're very pleased to be at the table to fully support the recommended legislation. The Bipartisan Savings Penalty Elimination Act would make common sense updates to the outdated rules for SSI benefits to reflect the current economic conditions and keep pace with inflation going forward. At JPMorgan, we would like all of our colleagues to be able to pursue their career aspirations, self-determination, and not be constrained by these outdated asset and income limits. These changes would play a very crucial role in expanding the economic opportunity and mobility for the disability community. It's time to take action. With that, I will turn it over to Galen Carey.
Good afternoon. The National Association of Evangelicals, representing 40 denominations and more than 45,000 churches, thanks Senators Brown and Cassidy and Wyden and Representatives Fitzpatrick and Higgins for proposing a common sense and long overdue policy reform that will open the doors of opportunity for millions of Americans. Evangelical Christians believe that all people are made in God's image and should be treated with dignity and compassion. This includes encouraging them to take responsibility for their lives by saving for future needs and opportunities. But current policy offers Americans living with disabilities a Hobson's choice: spend their money now or lose all access to essential support. This needlessly prevents people from saving for investments that could enhance their quality of life. The Bible teaches that God measures societies by how they treat the vulnerable and powerless. The Hebrew prophets called for the creation of just societies, the mitigation of suffering, promoting equal opportunity, and restoring wholeness. The SSI savings limit is ostensibly designed to target limited resources to the most vulnerable. But those who qualify for SSI already face substantial hurdles to equal participation in our society. In 1984, when the current savings limit was established, $2,000 was enough to buy a serviceable used car. It could pay a security deposit and first month's rent on a decent apartment. It could cover a whole year's tuition at many universities. Alas, each of those basic goods is now out of reach for those who have less than $2,000 in cash. The savings limit is long overdue for reform. Increasing the savings limit will not solve every problem, but it will remove one needless obstacle to human flourishing and enable many of our vulnerable neighbors to take an important step toward realizing their full God-given potential. Now I call on Bill Hoagland from the Bipartisan Policy Center.
I'll be brief. The Senator and I are talking. We're in the sun. Most of you are in the shade. First of all, I congratulate the bipartisan, bicameral legislation that's being introduced today. I'm Bill Hoagland, Senior Vice President at the Bipartisan Policy Center. The Center supports legislation like this that eliminates policies that disincentivize savings, particularly for low-income Americans receiving federal assistance. While clearly difficult, no question about it, for low-income families, policies nonetheless should encourage them to save and take financial responsibility, make those statements available so they could remove them potentially from the future of being on public assistance. The $2,000 asset test, as has been said so many times here already, is 40 years old. This is unfair. Bringing the asset test into the 21st century is long overdue. This is a no-brainer from my perspective. Finally, as the senators know, as a former staff director of the Senate Budget Committee up here for many years, I would be remiss if I didn't point out that at least the initial cost of this, whether you believe it or not, would be about $10 billion over 10 years. Relatively speaking, that's pretty small. While I am concerned about the level of debt and we suffer, SSI recipients, the disabled, the blind, they're not responsible for this level of debt. Well, and I am sure policymakers, as Senator Wyden has indicated, as this moves through, will find a way to offset this cost, which is $1 billion a year. This is the kind of investment we should be making, one that helps the most vulnerable among us. It's fair, creates the right incentives, while reducing administrative costs, and it's bipartisan. I'll turn it over to Ryan Rogers.
Thank you, Bill. My name is Rylan Rogers, and I'm here representing Microsoft, where I'm the Disability Policy Advisor. It's an honor to join you this afternoon. At Microsoft, we experience how a workforce of diverse backgrounds, skills, and experiences accelerates innovation and makes us competitive. Microsoft, our supply chain, and the workforce as a whole benefit from the removal of unnecessary barriers, allowing the talent of disabled workers to flourish. My colleagues have already articulated the barriers people experience and how it's impacting our employees and employees across our economy. We're also aware of who it's leaving out of the workforce and how critical it is not to miss any talent. The SSI Savings, Penalty, and Elimination Act and a bipartisan effort is an important step at modernizing our systems. We thank Senators Brown and Cassidy, as well as Representative Fitzpatrick and Higgins, for advancing this important legislation, and we look forward to working together to get it passed and start impacting the workers that we need to drive innovation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian.